Welcome to my dining room table, which is covered with a crappy yellow piece of fabric, which if I knew you were coming, I would have ironed, but that's no big deal. Okay, you probably recognize this, or I hope you recognize this, as a glucose molecule. What I want to go through with you here is cellular respiration made easy. I know when you see those notes and you listen to the narration, it's like, what? Or worse yet, when you go to the online resources. Okay, so the first thing that has to happen is, this is not included in your notes nor their narration. Oh, I think I just mentioned it, is that the glucose has to be linearized. What does that mean? It means it just becomes more of a straight line. Okay, and what happens here is the black dots are carbon, and that's what I represented in your notes as the capital letter C, all strung together. I mentioned that I took out some of the other pieces just to simplify everything. Okay, so here we go. What's the first step? It's glycolysis. Where does it take place? It takes place in the cytoplasm. Here's the process, watch. That's not right. There you go. And just go with it. What was the point? We were making 2 3-carbon pieces. I wanted to call these half a glucose, but apparently science is going to frown upon it, so I call these pyruvate instead. So now we have 2 3-carbon pyruvate. If you have oxygen present, you're going to go in one direction. If you do not have oxygen present, if you are anaerobic, then you're done. Okay, and if you go through the cell respiration notes, you'll see that some organisms turn this into ethanol, some organisms turn this into lactic acid. I'm going to go with the oxygenated or aerobic route. Okay, so we've just finished step 1, which at that point I don't care if there's oxygen or not, and now we're going to step 2. Step 2, I'm going to just move one of my pyruvates for now, and we'll deal just with one at a time. So what happens is, now we need to move into the mitochondria. And the task was to remove one of the carbons. By breaking a chemical bond, we'll release some energy, and we should end up with a 2-carbon molecule. So here we go. Boy, that was complicated, huh? I know. And this should technically be, according to Rydeen's law, half a glucose minus a carbon, but again, frowned upon, so we're going to call this acetyl coenzyme A. This is the carbon we now have to get rid of, and this is why we inhale, so that the oxygen, the O2, can enter our bloodstream, get into our cells. The cells will go, oh, okay, let me get this carbon. And then, as I said in the narration, we are actually exhaling a little piece of glucose. Okay, here, we didn't get any energy, by the way, not energy that we could use to make ATP. Instead, we simply got energy that goes back into the reaction. And I mentioned me trying to push my bike uphill, so ultimately I get to ride downhill. All right, so now I have to take my acetyl coenzyme A and feed it into the Krebs citric acid cycle. I don't have the usual number of props. I had to sneak back into school just to get this. But what we want to do now is, I can see one more chemical bond, so we still have a little bit of energy left. This will feed in to the 4-carbon piece that's always in the cycle. That was the horse that's on the merry-go-round or the carousel. Okay, so this jumps on. It goes through a couple of chemical reactions where basically you just take off a few pieces, stick on a few pieces. Take off a few pieces, stick on a few pieces. Ultimately, this will these carbons will split. The 2 carbons are going to get exhaled as small pieces of glucose. When you inhale, you exhale these out, but we're going to keep just an electron. Okay, so these puppies are now exhaled, and all we have left is the little electron. This will be passed from one embedded protein to another, to another, to another, and ultimately we'll get our 34 ATPs. Oh, this electron is picked up by oxygen. We don't need it this time to carry off in carbon and form carbon dioxide. Instead, we need oxygen to pick it up so you don't have excited electrons floating around your body.